question. What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this video, the United States of America is borrowing $3.8 million every single minute? Not per day, not per hour. Every single minute. We are sitting on $40 trillion in national debt, and that number is climbing so fast that even the people in Washington can't keep up with it. Now here's the question that nobody in mainstream media wants to answer. What happens to your money, your savings, your retirement, if the most powerful government on earth can't pay its bills? And here's the even bigger question. Mr. Gnome holds up phone showing Bitcoin price chart. Can Bitcoin, a decentralized, government-independent digital currency, actually survive a U.S. government collapse? Or will it go down with the ship? My name is Mr. Gnome, and welcome to Finance Theory, where we don't just follow the money, we follow the truth. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you look at your financial future. Part 1. The story that America doesn't want to tell. Let me take you back to August 15, 1971. President Richard Nixon appears on national television and makes one of the most consequential announcements in the history of money. He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, "We are suspending the convertibility of the dollar into gold." Most Americans watching that night had no idea what that meant, but a few very smart economists and bankers in the room, they knew exactly what it meant. It meant that the United States had just untied its currency from any physical asset. No more gold backing, no more limits. The government could now print as much money as it wanted. And print they did. In 1971, the U.S. national debt was approximately $400 billion. Sounds like a lot, right? Fast forward 50 years, $400 billion became $40 trillion. That is a 100x increase in just 5 decades. Now let me put that in a way that really hits home for you. If you stacked $40 trillion worth of $1 bills on top of each other, that stack would reach the moon and back 8 times. Every American citizen, man, woman, and child owes approximately $120,000 as their personal share of this national debt. Your newborn baby, $120,000 in debt before they take their first step. And here's the part that should really concern you. The United States is not paying down this debt. It is borrowing more money just to pay the interest on the debt it already has. In 2024 alone, the U.S. government paid over $1.1 trillion just in interest payments. That is more than the entire defense budget, more than Medicare, more than Social Security spending increases. Think about that. We're spending more money just to service our debt than we are to protect this country. This isn't a conservative argument. This isn't a liberal argument. This is a math argument. And the math is terrifying. Part 2. What does government collapse actually mean? Now, when I say government collapse, I don't necessarily mean tanks rolling down Main Street. I'm not talking about a Hollywood apocalypse. When economists talk about government financial collapse, they mean something far more subtle, but far more dangerous. They mean currency collapse. Let me tell you the story of 3 countries to show you exactly what this looks like in real life. Story number 1. Venezuela. 2016 Venezuela was once the richest country in South America. It had more oil reserves than Saudi Arabia, but its government spent recklessly for decades. It borrowed. It printed money. It ignored the debt. By 2016, Venezuela's inflation rate hit 800%. By 2018, 1.70%. That's not a typo. Venezuelan citizens were literally using bricks of cash as wallpaper because the paper was worth more as decoration than as currency. People lost their entire life savings in a matter of months. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, people who had worked their entire lives were suddenly lining up for food. Story number 2, Zimbabwe, 2008. Zimbabwe printed so much money that they eventually issued a $100 trillion bill. One single banknote, $100 trillion. And you know what you could buy with that? $100 trillion? Zimbabwean dollar? 3 eggs. 3 eggs. Story number 3. Germany, 1923. After World War I, Germany owed massive war reparations. To pay its debts, it printed money. Inflation spiraled so out of control that workers demanded to be paid twice a day, because by evening, the morning's wages were already worth half as much. Housewives would use wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy a loaf of bread. Cut back to Mr. Gnome. Direct to camera. Now you might be thinking, Mr. Gnome, come on. America is not Venezuela. America is not Zimbabwe. America is not Weimar Germany. And you're right. America is different. America has the world's reserve currency. America has the largest economy on earth. America has the most powerful military in history. But here's what's also true. Every single empire that has ever existed, Rome, Britain, Spain, the Mongols, they all believed they were different too. They all believed their dominance was permanent. None of them were right. Part 3, enter Bitcoin, the rebel currency born from crisis. Now here's where the story gets incredibly interesting. Because Bitcoin was not created in a laboratory by some tech billionaire looking to make money. Bitcoin was created in response to exactly the kind of financial crisis we're talking about today. In October 2008, right in the middle of the worst financial crash since the Great Depression, a mysterious person or group using the name Satoshi Nakamoto published a 9-page document. It was called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and buried in the very first Bitcoin block, ever mind what's called the Genesis block, Satoshi embedded a message, a headline from the Times newspaper, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. That was not an accident. That was a statement. Satoshi was saying loud and clear, I am building this because governments and banks cannot be trusted with your money. Think about what Bitcoin actually is at its core. It is a currency with a fixed supply. Only 21 million Bitcoin will ever exist. Nobody can print more. Not the president, not the Federal Reserve, not Congress. It is decentralized. No single government, bank, or corporation controls it. It is borderless. You can send Bitcoin from New York to Tokyo in minutes with no middleman. It is permissionless. Nobody can freeze your Bitcoin wallet the way a bank can freeze your account. In other words, Bitcoin was engineered to be everything that the US dollar is not. While the dollar loses value every year through inflation, Bitcoin gets harder to mine over time. While the government can print trillions of new dollars with a few keystrokes, Bitcoin's supply is mathematically capped. Forever while your bank can block your account, seize your assets, or collapse overnight. Bitcoin on the blockchain has never, not once, been successfully hacked or shut down in 16 years. Now, let's ask the big question. Part 4, can Bitcoin survive a US government collapse? This is the question you came here for, and I'm going to give you the most honest answer I can. The short answer, why yes, Bitcoin can survive. The complicated answer, it depends on what kind of collapse we're talking about. Let me break this down into 3 real scenarios. Scenario 1, slow dollar devaluation. This is not a dramatic collapse. This is the slow bleed. The US government keeps borrowing. The Federal Reserve keeps printing money to cover the interest. Inflation stays elevated, not Venezuela-levic, but consistently 5%, 6%, 7% per year. The purchasing power of the dollar slowly erodes. Your $100,000 savings account today buys $60,000 worth of goods in 10 years. In this scenario, Bitcoin thrives. We've already seen this play out. Between 2020 and 2021, the US printed approximately $6 trillion in new money in response to COVID. What happened to Bitcoin during that same period? It went from $7,000 to $69,000, a 900% increase while the dollar was being debated. Wealthy investors, hedge funds, corporations, they looked at the money printer going burr, and they ran to Bitcoin as a hedge. MicroStrategy bought over 200,000 Bitcoin. Tesla bought $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender. These are not random decisions. These are intelligent people looking at the debt clock and saying, we need an exit. Scenario 2. Rapid dollar crisis. Hyperinflation. Now we're getting into scarier territory. Imagine a scenario where America's creditors, primarily China and Japan, who hold trillions in US Treasury bonds, suddenly decide to dump those bonds. Interest rates spike. The dollar crashes. Inflation goes parabolic. What happens to Bitcoin in this scenario? Short-term, chaos. Everything crashes. Stocks, real estate, crypto, everything goes down together in a panic. People need cash to survive. They sell whatever they can. But here's the key. The panic phase is temporary. What comes after the panic? People start looking for a store of value that governments cannot inflate. Gold does well in this environment. But Bitcoin does something gold can't do. It can be sent across borders instantly, digitally, without anyone stopping you. When a currency collapses, the wealthy and the smart money always move to hard assets. In the digital age, Bitcoin is the ultimate hard asset. We saw a preview of this in Argentina. As the Argentine peso collapsed in recent years, Bitcoin trading volume in Argentina skyrocketed. Ordinary Argentinians use Bitcoin to protect their savings from their government's financial mismanagement. Scenario 3. Full government collapse, internet shutdown. Now, the bears, the Bitcoin skeptics will ask, but Mr. Nomi, what if the government shuts down the internet? What if they ban Bitcoin? What if the whole system goes dark? Fair question. Let's be real about it. If the internet completely shut down globally, Bitcoin would face serious challenges. The network runs on internet infrastructure. But let's think about this realistically. Number 1. The US government tried to ban gold in 1933. They mostly succeeded domestically, but gold still existed and ultimately came back stronger. Number 2. China has banned Bitcoin multiple times. Vietnam banned it. India threatened to ban it. Every single time, Bitcoin came back and hit new all-time highs. Number 3. Bitcoin nodes now run on satellites and radio waves. Blockstream already transmits Bitcoin blocks via satellite to 99.9% of the Earth's surface. The Meshtastic project is building radio-based Bitcoin transmission. You literally cannot shut it down without shutting down all human communication. And number 4. If the US government is collapsing so badly that they're shutting down the entire internet, your biggest problems are not your Bitcoin wallet. That's a different kind of survival situation. Part 5. What the smart money is doing right now. Let me tell you what the people who understand this debt crisis better than anyone are actually doing with their money. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, controlling over $10 trillion in assets, launched a Bitcoin ETF in 2024. Why would the most powerful financial institution on the planet put its name on a Bitcoin product? Because their clients, sovereign wealth funds, billionaires, pension funds, are asking for Bitcoin exposure. Fidelity, one of America's most trusted financial firms, now allows 401k retirement accounts to hold Bitcoin. Stanley Druckenmiller, one of the greatest macro investors in history, a man who made billions predicting the collapse of the British pound, has publicly said the US dollar will lose its reserve currency status within 15 years. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater, the world's largest hedge fund, has repeatedly warned that America's debt trajectory is unsustainable and that we need assets that can survive a currency crisis. These are not conspiracy theorists on YouTube. These are the people who move markets, and they are quietly, systematically, moving wealth out of dollar-denominated assets and into hard, scarce, decentralized money. The question is, are you going to wait for the crisis to happen? Or are you going to position yourself before it does? The counterarguments. Let's be fair, part 6. Now, I want to be fair on finance theory. We don't do hype. We do facts. So let me give you the strongest arguments against Bitcoin surviving a government collapse. Argument number 1. Bitcoin is too volatile to be a safe haven. This is true in the short term. Bitcoin can drop 50 to 80% in bear markets. If you need to sell at the bottom to survive a crisis, that's devastating. Counter. Bitcoin's volatility has decreased significantly over time as its market cap has grown. And in 10-year holding periods, Bitcoin has never produced a loss. Not once. Argument number 2. Governments can regulate Bitcoin into era. They can make it very difficult. They can require exchanges to report transactions. They can tax it aggressively. They can create barriers. Counter. They cannot eliminate self-custody Bitcoin. If you hold your own keys, no government on earth can take your Bitcoin without physically coming after you. Argument number 3. Bitcoin could be replaced by a competitor. Technology evolves. Maybe Ethereum or some future coin replaces Bitcoin. Counter. Bitcoin's network effect, its brand, its proven security track record, and its fixed supply make it uniquely positioned. Every cycle, competitors have tried to replace it. Bitcoin's dominance has persisted. Argument number 4. The government could create its own digital currency, cbdc, and ban Bitcoin. This is real. Central bank digital currencies are being developed worldwide. They could theoretically offer a government-approved digital currency and restrict Bitcoin. Counter. A government CBDC is the opposite of Bitcoin. It's programmable, traceable, and completely under government control. It's the surveillance dollar. The more governments push CBDCs, the more people will want Bitcoin as an escape from that control. Part 7. What should you actually do? Alright, finance theory family. Let's bring this home. I'm not here to tell you to put your entire life savings into Bitcoin. That would be irresponsible. But I am here to tell you that ignoring the debt crisis and doing nothing with your financial strategy is the most dangerous thing you can do. Here's a simple framework that intelligent people are using. Step 1. Understand the risk you already have. If 100% of your wealth is in dollars, savings accounts, bonds, dollar-denominated assets, you are 100% exposed to dollar devaluation. That is the risk you're not thinking about. Step 2. Diversify into hard assets. This means physical, silver and gold for stability. Bitcoin for asymmetric upside. Real estate ideally in strong markets as an inflation hedge. You don't need to go all in. Even a 5 to 10% allocation to Bitcoin has historically transformed entire portfolios. Step 3. Learn self-custody. If you own Bitcoin on an exchange and the exchange collapses like FTX did, you can lose everything. Learn how to use a hardware wallet. Hold your own keys. As the saying goes in crypto, not your keys, not your coins. Step 4. Stay educated. The financial system is changing faster than at any point in history. The people who will protect their wealth are the ones who understand what's happening. And that is exactly why channels like Finance Theory exist. The final message? Let me leave you with this. In 1971, when Nixon cut the dollar from gold, most Americans had no idea what was happening. In 2008, when the banks were gambling with mortgage securities and the whole system nearly imploded, most Americans had no idea until it was too late. $40 trillion in debt doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, then suddenly. Bitcoin was created for this exact moment in history. Not by a government, not by a bank. By someone who looked at the system, looked at the borrowing, the printing, the debt, the lies, and decided to build something that nobody could corrupt. Is Bitcoin perfect? No. Is it risky? Yes. But here's what I know for certain. The $40 trillion debt is real. The dollar's purchasing power loss is real. The search for an alternative is real. And Bitcoin, whether you love it or hate it, is the most serious answer to that search that humanity has ever produced. The question is not whether this crisis is coming. The question is, when it does, which side of history do you want to be on? Think about that. I'm Mr. Gnome. This is Finance Theory. If this video gave you something to think about, hit that like button. It helps more Americans find this information when they need it most. Subscribe to Finance Theory for weekly deep dives into the financial forces shaping your future. And drop a comment below. I want to know, are you holding Bitcoin as a hedge against the debt crisis? Yes or no? And WHY. I read every single comment. I'll see you in the next video.